Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I just wanted to sit down with you guys and talk about my 6-star reads because I feel like I don't talk about them enough on this channel, but I am constantly talking about them with my family, literally anyone who will listen. So I wanted to sit down and share with you my small amount of 6-star reads and then my honorable mentions that I think that if I were to reread them they have potential of hitting that 6-star status. And if you know me, I am very picky with my 5-star reads. I do not give them out very often, and so for a book to not only hit a 5-star rating, okay, if you guys are moving right now it's because my cat is walking on my bed. So for a book to hit 5 stars is very rare, which means that for a book to be considered 6 stars in my brain is just insane. So I do have 5. I only have 5 to actually talk to you guys about, but then like I said, I have some honorable mentions. Like, let me just like go over like how I grade a 6-star read. So when I say a 6-star read, I mean obviously it's more than a 5-star. So obviously I see that it's perfect. There's not a single thing wrong with this book, but I also refuse to take any criticism over this book. Like, it's sort of like if I hear someone talking bad about it, I'm like, I better do this, or me and this person will get into a little debate over it because I'm that serious about these books. And I will just never shut up about these books, and I can see myself rereading them for years to come. I will never ever stop recommending these books. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna stop talking and just like start talking about the actual books now. So book number 1 is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So I think that this was a mixture of reading it at the perfect time and it just being so good. I know that this book is so highly rated anyways, but I think that just I read it at the perfect time. It was my first Abby Jimenez book, and we're basically following Emma and Justin, and they're both separately dealing with like struggles in the dating world where whoever they date, as soon as they break up with that person, their ex-partner goes and finds like literally the love of their life. And it's happened multiple times for both of them where they'll be in relationships, it's not really going anywhere, they break up, and then that person goes and marries the love of their lives. And so they're like, what is going on? Like, literally, what is wrong with me? Why can't I find the love of my life? So they meet online through Reddit, and they sort of make this pact. They're gonna meet up and they're going to date. They're going to do everything that they usually do in relationships, and then they're going to break up. And they think that if they break up and they follow all their usual like relationship rules and everything, then each of them would separately find their significant others, their life partners after that, the person they're gonna marry once they break up. And so we're following them through all of that, and that is just such a fun idea, I feel like. But we're also dealing with such heavier topics as well, and that Emma's dealing with things with her mom. I think her mom is like just very toxic. She's not a great mother and she never has been, and so she's dealing with that while Justin is dealing with his mom is going off to prison, and so he's gonna be stuck as the main caretaker for his 3 younger siblings. So that's a whole other thing in itself. So Abby Jimenez just knows how to write these heavier topics that are mixed in with such a sweet romance. And honestly, Justin is probably like top 3 book boyfriends that I've ever read. I love him, I love her, I love the couple, I love everything about this. The setting is just so perfect. And again, I read this like during the summer. It was like the perfect time to read it, and I remember laughing out loud. I have so many tabs in here. I'd want to go back and read through my tabs. I do every once in a while. I just open this book and read through all my tabs and my highlights and my little annotations. And I just remember I was sitting at the pool one time reading this book and just laughing out loud at something that was happening, and it was just so funny. Like, just like the way that she can write just the perfect rom-com with just this like emotional underlying topic as well. I love it. So yeah. I'm gonna like say after all of these books, like, please go read this, but like, please go read these books. Like, we get it. I love these books. I need you to read them as well. So next we have Daisy Jones and the Six, and this is a book I really want to reread. And like in my brain, I like, because I do booktube, I'm always like, I can't reread books because I'm like filming reading vlogs. I need my videos to always be relevant, and like I need to be like reading new books so that I can film videos. So I think I may do like a reading vlog at some point rereading some of my favorite books, just so in my brain that can be like the excuse for rereading books. Really, I don't need any excuse to reread them. I can reread them at any point, but just because I make videos on the internet, for some reason in my head I feel like I can't. So anyways, long story short, I freaking love this book so much. So we're basically following Interview Style, this band from the late 60s, and there's a subplot of romance, but they're also dealing with such heavier topics. There's drug addiction, there is loss, there's grief, there's literally so many topics in this book that gets covered, but it's all told in interview style. Like literally all of it is told in interview style, and so the pacing is just super quick because we're getting excerpts from every character, but they're just little tiny bits like that, so it's like it just goes by really quickly. And I love this format so much, and I just love this book so much. I haven't ever watched the show. If you've watched the show and you've also read the book, let me know if the show does the book justice, but I would really love to reread this soon and annotate it and just relive this book, because I just remember absolutely loving this. I think I read it like 4 years ago now, so it's been a really long time, so I would definitely like to reread this very soon. Okay, and I'm actually gonna do these next two books together because they're part of the same series. So first we have Catching Fire and Sunrise on the Reaping. Oh my god, I can't even talk about this book specifically. I reread this trilogy sometime in 2025, right before this book came out. And even before I reread it, this book has always been my favorite of the series. It's my favorite movie. I love the game that happens in this. I love what Katniss and Peeta are going through and just everything that happens in this book. I love the new characters like Finnick, and everything that happens in this book is just my favorite part of the original trilogy. And I mainly reread it so that I could really understand this book, especially because there are so many characters from this that show up in this book, and so I really just wanted to like make sure that I understood everything properly. But I feel like this is a book that I can always go back to because I know the first book and the first movie so well that I can always go back to this one. Just like I can just pick it off my shelf and reread it because it is just so good. I freaking love this book and this movie so much. But then we get into Sunrise on the Reaping. I'm sure everyone knows what this book is about, but this is Haymitch's story. So in the first book, we're following Katniss, and her mentor in her Hunger Games is Haymitch. So he was actually a participant in the second Quarter Quell, the 50th anniversary of the Hunger Games, and for each Quarter Quell they have this big twist on the games. And so this was actually the 75th Hunger Games, and for this it was like all previous victors who played in these games, but for this one they had double the amount of tributes. So instead of 24 tributes there were 48. Wow, I'm like just now remembering that. That's like sick. Oh, my camera battery's flashing. I have to change the battery. Hang on. Okay, sorry, I had to change my camera battery. But back to this book. Like I said, there are 48 tributes in this game versus the normal 24, and they have to fight to the death. But this is the most devastating book ever. If you've read this, you know how much this book hurts. And until recently, like literally until I just read the last letter, this book was the most I've cried to a book ever, and I have not stopped thinking about this book. And I want to reread it for the reason that I want to make sure that during the movie I like actually can remember the book and I can point out things that were different and everything. Plus I want to read this in general because it was just so good. But I'm like, can I really put myself through that amount of devastation and tragedy again? Probably not, but will I do it anyway? Yeah. Oh my gosh, if you have yet to read this book, please make sure that you do it before the movie comes out. It was just, oh, it is so good. It is so good, and I cannot wait to watch the movie in November. Okay, now this next book. This is going to like surprise a lot of people, and I feel like I'm gonna lose a lot of credibility by saying that this is a 6-star read for me. And I'm like a little embarrassed. I almost didn't include it in this video, but whatever. We have The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and like I said, I know that this is like, what, girl, this is 6 stars for you, really? Yeah, I've read it twice, and this is one of the only books that I've ever reread before. And the first time that I read it, it was like one of the first thrillers I read. It was my first Frida McFadden, and it was like, yeah, one of the first thrillers that I've ever read. And so I didn't see any of the twists coming, so I was just baffled by it. And even when I read it a year later, after having expanded in the thriller genre, I still just absolutely loved it, and it still remained a 6-star read for me. And so basically, I'm actually going to see this movie today. It's been out for like a month and a half, and I'm just now going to see it, so I'm so excited. But we are following Millie, who just got out of prison, and so she's trying to find a job, but it's really hard for her to find a job because she just got out of prison. And so she has this interview with Nina Winchester, who is like this really rich woman, and she lives with her husband Andrew and her daughter Cecilia. And Millie's like, okay, I'm going to this interview, but there's no way I'm gonna get this job because I just got out of prison, and there's no way that I'm gonna be hired as a housemaid for this really rich family, especially once I do a background check and everything. And long story short, she gets the job and she's like baffled, but she's like so grateful, and she's determined to do a good job because there's no way that she can lose this job because she was sleeping in her car. She doesn't have money. She literally just got out of prison. And so she starts working this job, and I don't want to give too much away, obviously, but strange things start happening and she starts to notice things, and she's living in this attic that's like really creepy, and it is not at all what the movie portrays it as. I've seen the trailer and that attic is way nicer than what this is described as. It is like this really small, barely has a window, really just nasty little attic, but she's grateful for it because again, she was sleeping in her car, and she's just like noticing like a lot of weird stuff happening, and the plot twists were just absolutely insane. And yeah, I'm going to see this movie today, and I hope that they didn't change too much, and I hope that my visualizations of these characters don't change too much after watching the movie, but we'll see. So these are my 5 6-star reads, actual 6-star reads that I think about constantly and will never shut up about. Oh wait, oh my gosh, you guys, I've just realized I totally forgot to talk about one of the 6-star reads. We have this absolute brick. How could I have forgotten about this one? We have 11/22/63 by Stephen King, and this is a book. I actually watched the show first, which I know is a little cheating, but I didn't even like, I don't know, I didn't think about reading the book first until I watched the movie like several years ago. I think it was in 2020. I watched the show with my parents and I freaking loved the show so much. I've watched it like 3 times now, and so eventually I was like, okay, I'm gonna read the book. I have the physical copy, let me read the book. And so I listened to it through audiobook, some of it. I read some of it physically, and obviously this is a big book. I don't even know how many, it's like 800, yeah, it's 850 pages, so it's a big book. And so I think that watching the show probably helped me get through a book this long, because I just like, I was reading this to get more details that the show missed out. And honestly, the show changed a lot, so I'm really glad that I read this, because then I got more details and I got even more attached to the characters. But we're basically following a man named Jake. He's a English teacher at a high school in Maine, and he's kind of like in a bad place a little bit. Like, he's going through a divorce and he's just not entirely happy with his life, and so he goes to this diner that he goes to quite often. And so then the diner owner, Al, he explains to Jake that if he goes through this closet and in the diner and he walks a certain step, he will be transported back to the 1960s. I can't remember if it starts in 1960 or like 1957 or something. And it was different in the book and different in the show. It was like longer in the book versus the show. It like had a shorter period of time, so I can't remember exactly what year it was. But the whole point is that Al, the diner owner, is explaining to Jake that he needs to go back to 1963, 11/22/63, to stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy, because Al is so determined that if that assassination never happened, the state of the world would be completely different today. And so at first Jake is like, what are you talking, literally what, like that's insane, you're absolutely insane. But then it becomes sort of like a dying wish of Al for Jake to go back in time to stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And he goes on like different missions in the past. Obviously he's from the future, so he has to change a lot about himself. He has to adjust to now being in the 1960s. There's a romance subplot that is just like one of the most endearing romances ever written. And honestly, I feel like I learned a lot about history reading this, even just like the presidency of John F. Kennedy. I feel like I learned a lot from that, and it was just such an incredible book and such an incredible story. I want to read more books that are similar to this. I just think that it is such a unique and interesting idea. I think about this constantly, and I want everyone in my life to read this or at least watch the show. It's on Netflix now, so I would highly recommend you at least watch the show if you don't think you'll ever read a book this big, because this is a lot. This is a lot. Or you could read the audiobook. You can listen to the audiobook. So now I have some books that I have rated 5 stars or like close to 5 stars that I think about constantly, that I feel like if I did a reread, these have the potential of being 6 stars. These are my honorable mentions of 6-star reads. Okay, so first, the reason why I'm picking these 2 books is because, as you saw, Daisy Jones and the Six is part of my 6-star collection. So I have Malibu Rising and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This was one of the first books that I've ever read that wasn't a Stephen King book, that wasn't like assigned reading for school, and so I feel like I wasn't really into reading enough to really comprehend everything that was going on in this book yet. I feel like I needed a couple years of like really reading, like the amount that I do now, in order to fully be prepared for this book. So I really want to reread this at some point because I think I rated it 4 stars, but I feel like this has such the potential of being rated higher, also just because of the idea. And I loved Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favorite author, and so I just think that with a reread it could become a 6-star read for me. And then Malibu Rising, I read it a little bit more recently, but again, it was a while ago, but I'm finding myself really enjoying this genre of books more, especially this type of historical fiction. So I feel like with a reread I might really enjoy this. I rated this like 4.5 stars, so I think it has potential for being a 6-star read. Now these next 2 books, I have 2 Emily Henry books, and this one was my first Emily Henry book that I actually rated 5 stars, and I think about it all the time. And when I first read it, I was like, yeah, this is a 6-star read, but I feel like it would need a reread before I can determine whether or not it's worthy of the 6-star category, because I think about it quite often, but I don't think about it as much as my actual 6-star read. So I feel like with a good reread, this has potential. And then this one I literally think about like practically every single day. I absolutely loved this book, and I know that that's such an unpopular opinion, which just baffles me because I loved this when I was reading it. I have been thinking about it constantly, and I can't stop thinking about rereading it. I want to reread this so badly, and I loved the fact that it wasn't just a romance book, and I feel like that really separated this book from Emily Henry's usual books. I loved the 2 different timelines. I loved that we were getting like a past, like in the 80s I believe it was, or maybe it was before that, and I love the fact that both of the main characters were writers. You guys know I love to read about authors and writers and journalists and everything like that. I really love that aspect of it, and I could totally see myself rereading this like in the near future, because with the amount that I think about this book, it's like, why haven't I reread it at this point? And then my last honorable mention is a book that I read in November actually, so it's still fresh on my mind, but I've thought about it so much. I literally, like, I want everyone in my life to read this book, and it's Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I've never heard anyone talk about this book before. I was gifted it by my cousin, and I absolutely adored this book, and I thought it was just such a beautiful book about personal growth and growing through your trauma, and also just like understanding that life is not all about your bad qualities, I guess you could say. Like, life is so much bigger than what other people are going to say about you and what people think about you, because essentially like these 2 kids they catch on fire when they get angry or very emotional, which sounds like such a silly plot, but it is written so beautifully. I absolutely loved this book, and I want more people to read this because no one else has, and I feel like if I were to reread this eventually, it has the potential of becoming 6 stars, because there was nothing wrong with this book in my eyes. I absolutely love this book. So with that being said, oh my gosh, I can't lift this up. I can't. This is my stack minus 112263, because I think if I put it with the stack, these might all fall over. These are my 6-star reads plus my honorable mentions. So let me know your guys' 6-star reads, or if you have any books that you think that I would rate 6-star reads based on my list. And I'm so glad that I was able to talk about these books with you. If you haven't read all of my 6-star reads, please read them. I want to talk about them with you guys so badly. So let me know if you've read them. If you haven't, make sure you go read them. And thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys so soon. Bye guys.